Welcome back to another Uncommon Man podcast. Extremely excited today to have Brennan with us. If you guys are in a relationship that you want to keep, or you're in a relationship where there are challenges, stories, or circumstances that are going on that you wish to eliminate, get rid of, or make better, I've brought Brennan on here to share his journey because he's lived it. He's got experience with it. He knows the do's and the don'ts. And we're going to pull out the story and the things that are going to allow you to navigate a more positive course of action, whether that just be for yourself, whether that be for the outcome of your relationship, or whether that just to be have a much better life. So, Brennan, mate, thank you so much. And I just want to, before we even start, mate, this sort of stuff it's hard. It's hard to see ourselves in the mirror. It's hard to kind of reflect on where we may have dropped the ball, as you mentioned earlier. But I really want to honor that, mate. And thanks for reaching out to give this gift to all our listeners as well. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for having me. I'm honored and grateful to be here and to be able to share just a little bit of really my own journey, not really wisdom. I don't know. Not that what do I even know? But, you know, I have seen some things and I'm still here. I'm still kicking. And I'm hoping that maybe some of my experiences can provide some context or some encouragement or insight, you know, to some other people maybe that find themselves in a similar or adjacent experience.
Okay. Can you share a little bit about yourself for us who are listening? Because you sound a bit weird for an Australian. What's the journey? What's the journey that's got you here? Brennan's currently
there and back again.
Yeah.
So I'm originally from like Virginia, North Carolina region in America. Moved to Perth with my ex about like almost 8 years ago now. So, which we'll get into all those fascinating facets, I reckon, over the time. So, but yeah, I was here for a long time with an American, and then have lived here without, by myself. So my accent is very confused.
Cool. And so, let's just say said ex.
Yeah.
She was the one that pulled you from America to Oz?
No, it was both. I was actually more of the traveler than she was, but both of us, I would say, we met young, got married young, and had dreams of traveling or doing something cool. So, this is 9 years ago, whatever. I did a Google search of how to make money online. And as a lot of people do, found a little opportunity, made my first few $100s, and we said, yeah, let's sell everything and travel the world. So that's what we did. And I got a house sit here in Perth, which is how we ended up in Australia. And from there, after our travels, the quality of life's really amazing, the beach, and there were some good opportunities work-wise in my ex's field as well. So we just decided to come back, really.
Cool. How did you guys connect? Like, what was the spark that set you two off? And how old were you when you met?
When we met, 21.
Yeah.
At uni, well, 20 actually. And then we got together a few months later after I was 21. So, we were both at uni, and we, I don't know if you guys have ever seen in the movies before, like the dorm RAs where the people with the clipboards telling everyone what to do or whatever. So, we were both in that kind of leadership role. I was I wasn't an RA yet, but I was in Jason and she was, or whatever. So we were there early to campus before uni kicked off to do some trainings and stuff.
Yeah.
And met up there. I frankly, there was just like something about her that made her stand out, like even amongst a crowd of her friends. And I remember immediately being like, oh, I should not be friends with her, because I was dating someone at the time and was kind of like, yeah, nah, I'm just going to let that be, because there seemed to be some sort of intense interest on my side, at least initially. So when things didn't work out with the girl I was seeing at the time, I slowly started trying to cultivate something with this other girl, with my ex, which in and of itself, there was a lot of lessons now that I recognize, but at the time, just young, just trying to do. I come from a religious Christian background, which I was trying very hard to embody a lot of those principles that I felt mattered about pursuit and commitment and standards for like character of people and things like that. So I probably overlooked some things that I should have been more aware of because I thought I was doing the right thing by pushing through.
Can you name them? What were they?
Oh yeah, well, like for instance, just straight up, I mean, she tried to end our relationship during emotional moments quite a few times, and I didn't force her to stay. I just held my ground. Like, I don't know, I just held space for her, and then it would always like kind of settle down, and then she would want to be with me. I was just like a rock. I perceive myself as just being like a steady rock, like in a turmoil of emotions, and now retroactively it's like, okay, yeah, no, I probably, it was fine for like a few of those, but I just should have started putting my foot down on some of those behaviors.
So this is good looking back. So at the time you were like, okay, cool, I feel like I'm the rock here. She's this emotional roller coaster. I'm going to stay steady. She'll feel safe. It's good. But looking back now, was it more of I guess we call it the Mr. Nice Guy? Of like,
100%. I'll
just accept this behavior so she doesn't leave me. And then she'll like me because I said yes.
Oh, the thing is that it's not, I wasn't, I wish I was that desperate. But it wasn't. Like, it's almost arrogance, honestly, when I look back, to where it's like I actually thought I was being the superior, not towards her, but superior man, like human, by being unimpacted, unfazed, by being, it's like, no, I'm so mature that I can just weather or handle any of these little spats or whatever that come up. And I don't need to get aggressive. I don't need to get vicious or hold it against them or whatever like that, which those are still true concepts. I just embodied them very poorly. Which was a pattern that would stick with me, honestly. And is one of the bigger, I would say, like, it's not really a regret. It's just an area that I see that I could have done things differently. Not that the outcome would have changed, but I could have showed up better in certain areas, if that makes sense.
Okay, we're here rather than, I was thinking about,
well, we're going all over the place.
Yeah.
So we're welcome to.
So it's fine. We'll go here because there's a lesson for it right there, and it's probably obviously going to play it all the way through. So what would you have changed? Like, you embodied it, but you see kind of in a different way. Like, I guess, what would that look like now with more maturity?
Yeah, well, I would have recognized that having self-respect would have meant that there is a give and take between and that it wasn't fair to me for her to go to such extremes in a way that that like threaten my own security and well-being. Like, that's literally what we're talking about. It's like, and so I was far beyond. I understand, like, people have feelings and they're kind of like isolated cases, but the extremism and the regularness of that extremism that's not healthy. And that was, I should have been the one straight. It's like, that shouldn't have ever happened, but I should have been the one to be like, hey, this isn't fair to me that you constantly go to this level, and then I'm now worried and anxious are stressed about the security or the health of our relationship, especially when I'm here right now. Like, I'm not going anywhere. I haven't,
Yeah.
it's not like I was out with the boys
No
until
evidence.
3 a.m. It's like, yeah, it just is not. And I understand that you have experiences that make it hard for you, but to potentially like feel secure here, but you're causing me a lot of anxiety and stress. And like, it's you are not allowed to have feelings, and I'm not, it's either we both have feelings or we both don't have them.
Okay, fair. Okay, so after that, how long did that continue throughout the relationship, or was that just
Yeah,
early
it,
on?
it genuinely did. It was pretty, I would say. So she tried to like, and this is the thing though, like, and I'm not gonna, people myself, but like especially women, tend to have more feelings and tend to feel them biggerly than we do. So, I don't know. I didn't know the difference between like freaking out because the trash can, like I had very little frame of reference to know like what was this normal kind of concern and what's crazy, because to me it feels crazy to freak out about both things, like, oh, the bin is overflowing, and also the relationship I feel unsafe. I was like, they're all if everything, I just didn't know like what level, if you kind of like are always at the same level in the response, then it makes it really difficult to judge where, at least for me with the lack of experience that I had.
Well, what's really
What?
important? It's like if everything's
Yes,
a 10, I'm
that's
like,
exactly
where do I
right.
focus?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, and try and be attentive to that. But yeah, no, the thing is I I just, and look, this is one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to share this, like my experience. And it's probably pretty strange and unique, but this was the second woman that I had ever dated in my entire life, and I married her. And I just had no, and my whole context was trying to be a good man and husband. But that was defined based off of the woman's perception of me.
And any religious beliefs, or just the woman's perception?
Oh yeah, it would definitely be. Yeah. The religious beliefs a ton. Yeah, of course. But like in that case, though, it would be very. I would say that from a biblical perspective, there's a high expectation for how the men are supposed to behave in a relationship. And it genuinely says in the Bible, like, men are supposed to love their lives like Jesus loved the church. So it's like a pretty high kind of bar. And there was a level to where I was trying to be the anti case, which you mentioned, nice guy syndrome. I 100% recommend that book to, most people. No more Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah.
But it was this also trying to be this antithesis, an example of the opposite of what it's like in a relationship. So I didn't know that I knew it was hard, but I didn't know that that was actually warning signs that needed to be addressed, if that makes sense. I didn't know the check engine, is the check engine light on because there's like dust in the filter, or because the engine's about to explode? I don't know. I just had the one thing, but I had no way of gauging.
Yeah.
And because there was a sense that there was a prone to 10 out of 10 emotions, that made me very resistant to bring up anything that could potentially set off that kind of thing, which again is another indicator of how there's like a lack of health in that context. But we're just probably in the things, but like I just abdicated a lot of responsibility by avoiding some of these discussions for fear of setting her off, when they could have been super impactful. And at the very least, worst case scenario, cause the dissolution, the breakdown of the relationship faster, which that's fine. Like, I'm not here to try and save anyone's relationship. I'm here to try and help people be healthier. And
Yeah. But like you said,
hopefully,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, hopefully that leads to, well, I mean, the thing is that should lead to healthy relationships, but you can't be healthy for both people. Like, that's an individual person's decision. And then the other person has to also decide that for themselves, which is where we eventually ended up at, but at the time. So
Yeah,
that's
I can
it
see
all
how.
interconnects. It's all connected, but it was looking back to hindsight 2020, it's like, man, I was afraid of being perceived as an asshole, or like upsetting her, or being accused of being insensitive. And frankly, I was systematically there was unfortunately like a lot of gaslighting that happened because of my ex's experiences. She was an assault victim. There were some other things which I was very empathetic to, but that brought in a level of unnecessary superiority in her perception and perspective of life, because she became the measuring stick for what was good or not based off of her unique life experience, which meant that my perspectives were very regularly dismissed with, like, from a shameful perspective, not even from like a very not in just like a healthy dialogue. It's just, well, yeah.
And then in terms of bringing up the fact that, I've just been shamed, or my perspective matters, you're scared that you're going to set her off from a 0 to a 10. Is that?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Right.
Well, there was no, we had the illusion of a very communicative relationship, but the reality was she got to say whatever she wanted, and I couldn't say that much at all.
Right. Okay. The idea, the thing that comes to me is the walking on eggshells.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
If I say that, it's going to explode, even though, okay, so I'll just go do it. So you end up doing everything, not saying anything, and then there's no rules or standards for her, just rules and standards for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's where the growing frustration came for me, because it's like, I feel like I'm a totally different person as from your influence, and I feel like you have been stubbornly unchanged or unimpacted by me at all. So why is the expectation? I mean, frankly, the thing is like, why am I the only one that has to grow and mature? Because that's how it felt from the perspective that I was the one constantly in a deficit, which was, interesting given the ways that I showed up in the relationship. Not only was I the primary provider, I let her take a lot of time off to go and study. I helped fund that. I paid for a lot of it. I did the majority of the cooking. I did the majority of the cleaning. It's like, no, I am actually showing up in a very high level. So there was this weird dissonance between, why does everyone else think that, I mean, frankly, it's like, why do all of these other wives or girlfriends think that I'm an amazing husband, and my own wife doesn't think that I am? Like, what's going on here?
It's really interesting and kind of tough as well, because I know it's a shitstorm. But like you mentioned, that why am I the only one who has to grow, when the hard thing is that when we're in this situation, we shrink, because we don't want to grow in terms of putting rules in place. We don't want to grow in terms of saying, this is our standard, that I need to be treated in this way. We shrink away from those because we know it's going to end up as a 10. And then we have to go down this path of like, well, I'm not growing here. I'll need to make up for it, like the cooking, the cleaning, the organizing, the da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, I'm a really good husband, but actually the masculine, the path of direction and everything was shying away from, because, well, fuck, if I say something, if I put direction or I put boundaries in, this shit's going to a 10.
And that's what the 1-2 punch of this entire thing is. for me and what I like. I there are things that I could have done way worse. So I'm still proud and grateful for the way that I managed a lot of the scenario. I still failed to show up in a lot of ways like I should have as a man. And I've got to wrestle with the fact that I cared more about her perception of me than doing the right thing regularly. And that was me compromising my values. And again, relationships are a two-person thing, so you can't I can't play the what if game really, because I have absolutely no clue. And frankly, what led to we'll get to this in a second, so I'll pause on that. But I can look back and just be like, man, you sure were not showing up in ways that you claimed to or wanted to because it was too scary.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like you're saying, I was like, let me just, it's just a classic nice guy behavior, but it's like, let me just do extra chores and hope they like outweigh, or like somehow there's a weight that she feels that she will now care about these other things because I'm just heaping so much.
I've got everything in this backpack. I'll carry everything.
Yeah.
I'll carry absolutely everything.
Yeah.
Whole house.
And they'll have this self-recognition. But the thing is like, that's a cop-out for having hard conversations, because it's like, let me make my life miserable and hope the other person notices and then cares enough to then do it. But the whole reason we're in that situation is because theoretically they're not paying attention to you like they should be in the first place. So what are you gonna like? Why? That's a terrible strategy. If they're not even looking at you anyways, hurting yourself more isn't gonna like make them suddenly start paying attention. That's like, it's just a wimpy way really to deal with hard scenarios, frankly.
But isn't it amazing that the way that it's literally the opposite, the way that we think, okay, cool, I'll get more love and respect, is if I do this thing over here, I'll do more of these things so they see me here. And the exact opposite starts happening. You get more whining, you get more disrespect, you get more of those things, you get more walked over. It's a really bizarre game, but at the same time, you can see why it works the other way. You mentioned the check engine light. You don't know if there's dust in there, if it's about to explode. What was your experience, either from your parents or people around you, about what a healthy relationship looked like? Did you have any?
Yeah. I got to see a lot of relationships, I would say. I didn't. I'm from the South, and there is a very much like sweep things under the rug, or a kind of picture perfect way of presenting things. So I got to have close proximity. I spent the night over at friends a lot. I was friends genuinely with a lot of my friends' parents. The majority of them were married, so I had a lot of like healthy relationships with people that were married, but I was not exposed really to the rocky side of those things. And I did not really learn how to navigate that in a healthy way. And I would say this is a bonus, but like, as someone that has more of an achiever style tendency, that's actually quite paralyzing, because the fear of getting it wrong actually will cause me to not do anything, which is worse than doing the wrong thing in those circumstances. But fear of, so then I just like deal with the current scenario, because it's like, oh no, I might do it incorrectly. Whereas, but I just saw there was very little conflict in my own parents' relationship. And I've had conversations with my dad about that, especially kind of in the other side of some of these things. But I feel like there were skills for, I feel like I didn't learn some certain skills about navigating differing opinions or whatever growing up that I'm trying to learn and have been trying to learn, you know, to do in a healthy way, really. And that's the evolution though of health and growth, right? You know, so both of my parents come from quite broken backgrounds. And so the fact of like what they've been able to build and achieve together, frankly, I am a recipient of a lot of health and stability because of what the foundation that they've laid. And now I'm in a position to be able to add another layer.
Yeah, perfect. That is exactly it.
Because of the work, of the hard work that they put in, you know?
I find it really interesting that we have this idea, we have this lovely saying as guys that we flippantly say often, it's happy wife, happy life.
Yeah.
It's like, as long as she's happy, life's good. But we think making her happy is doing all these things, allowing her to walk over us and all these things. And it's like, when we see that, when we can see growth through conflict, so we see a relationship where they argue or they have that, you know, there's conflict there, tension, and then we see growth from it. It's like, oh wow, that's how you do it. Okay, right. I'll learn that and take it on. But we don't see that very often because and I'll put my hand up. Fucking hell, I would have worn the shirt. I was the nice guy. I was like, man, okay, babe.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, no, don't leave me. Keep you happy.
Yeah,
whatever it takes. Whatever it takes, I'll keep you happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so the sentiment, happy wife, happy life, to me is very, I mean, it's sad, but I mean, it's also true. Like women are powerful. Like women are powerful, man. And it's awesome. Like that's why we like them. But also, what do you think relationships are? Like you just thought you were going to get like a roommate that only brought these like beauty and grace, and then you could just continue to function as if you were an individual? Like what the hell, bro? Like grow up, stay single.
Yeah.
Like get some housemates, and like it's either everything in life, there is no perfect win-win scenario because other people are involved and they have their own needs, they have their own challenges. And it's like, so a lot of I'll be honest, a lot of the things that I just like, you're just selfish. Like get over yourself. Like when did you think that you were going to join lives with another person and then keep complete autonomy?
That is brilliant. I literally had this conversation yesterday with Fleur. She was talking about why is it when men cheat, generally it's with younger women and these sorts of things, and what is it that's so attractive about it? And I was talking, it actually led to the crazy hot scale. I don't know, you ever seen that awesome graph where the guy finds the 9 out of 10 and he's like, this is a unicorn.
Okay.
But I was like, every man's like, yeah, I just want the freak in the sheets, lady in the street kind of thing. I want the seductive queen. And I'm like, cool, man.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. How much can you handle her craziness? Oh no, I don't want fucking crazy. I don't want to deal with any of the wrath part. And I'm like,
yeah,
well, bro, as much as you can deal with the wrath and the anger is how much you're going to get the other end of the spectrum. You can't just give all the goodies.
You don't get it. Yes,
you don't get the goodies.
Exactly right. Yes.
So it's like, it's really interesting when people talk about it.
I used to say this, and this is going to sound harsh, but I meant it in I mean it in an encouraging, amazing way. But I was like, I used to say this to some of my friends back in like my mid-20s, early when because people were getting married a lot earlier when I was, where I come from. And it's a bit like guys would talk about, women, potentially being difficult or whatever. And I was like, guys, like, this is the problem with like strong independent women, is that they're strong independent women. So like you either appreciate that and value, which I do, and recognize that there's going to be disagreement because they have their own thoughts, which I mean, they will anyways. Like I'm not trying to, but it's just like, you don't get that. Also, the freaking the sheets just sounds exhausting and intimidating. I'm like, I don't think I want to have to do. I was like, woo! I'm like, whenever people, this is going to be hilarious. You can edit it out if you want, but whenever people are like, I want a girl that's like crazy in bed, I was like, you must not be a very attentive lover because it's exhausting. I'm like, it's like, whoa,
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. You
you're
know what?
talking like,
Are you a 5 out of 10? Yeah, I'm just looking for like a 3 or 4 out of 10. I don't want to get too
my
tired doing this, right?
my favorite thing to do on posts on Facebook or whatever when people are like real men don't, I always put have more orgasms than their partner.
So,
Switch that perspective and let's see how many of you guys are like all about that. It's like, woo, buddy. Anyway, we digress.
yeah, that's good though. I like that. I think it's a really cool thing. And if men recognize that, oh, I want a strong, independent woman. Do you?
Yeah,
Do you? Because think about that for a moment. Everything's got a double side, right? Double-edged sword,
that's
double-sided coin,
exactly
whatever.
right.
You got to play with
That's
both.
exactly right.
I want a
And
woman
like,
who can be independent, doesn't have to rely on me all the time. I'm like, cool, man. You know what else that comes with?
guess what's gonna happen? She's gonna do her own things and make decisions without you. And like, yeah, but that's the big and this is where I just want to keep bringing it back. It's good to have these like bigger picture, like reference point kind of conversations, but that's where you got to bring it back and be radically honest with who you are and where you're at and what you're willing to, because like that's not the woman's fault. I'll never forget sitting with a good mate of mine, one of my best mates, telling me about this relationship and how they were struggling, and this is shortly after mine dissolved, and there were and he was saying to me how there were certain things that he really wanted from the relationship that just didn't seem to be there, and some of the expectations and stuff that she was putting on him. And like at first, it's like, oh no, this is like really unhealthy. There's a lot of overlap between what I went through and what you're dealing with. And as we unpacked it a little bit, not to say that it wasn't an unhealthy per se relationship, but I just called him straight up. I was like, mate, like you're the one being inauthentic in this relationship. She's actually showing up exactly how she wants to be. And she's being honest with you about it too. She's not even beating around the bush. You are the one trying to force her to conform to some ideal that she has shown you over and over again that she's not. So I'm like, that's actually your responsibility, because she's showing up authentically. And yeah, it was like, well, I mean, that's the thing. Like he had to come to terms with a lot of things that like, oh no, I made a poor decision. Oh no, I thought that I wanted this and I actually want this other thing. Like all of those, we have to fucking admit that we're wrong a lot. And that's hard. And like a lot of, people in general, but like a lot of men are so stubborn that they will like shoot their foot off before they will admit that they've done things incorrectly. And like that's just an ego thing, like that you're not impressing the only people that you're impressing are people that you don't need to be impressing with that.
No, what you did for your friend is I talk about this a bit with it. Finally, we need more friends who are kind, not nice.
Yeah.
It's so good. That's I had something that popped into my mind, but it's withered away somewhere. Yeah, it'll come back if it's important.
So I can take you through then the kind of progression of where I was, because obviously,
yeah, I want to kind of understand. So we've got the start of a relationship, and it went on for 9 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to understand. There must have been bits in it where you were like, "Oh yeah, no, I can probably keep doing this," and then you kind of roller coasting along. Because what was it after that? And what was the thing that you were like, I'll marry this girl? Was it I'll marry this girl and it'll solve all our problems? Or was that just kind of naturally the next step? What happened as you went through college and went to the step?
Oh, she was pressuring me to marry her for sure. But and this is what I would tell people straight up that I was like, you're like, why did you want to get married? And I was like, well, we're kind of different people and we probably would have headed in different directions, but we actually wanted to figure out a direction together. which she was quite resentful for that. It's so funny that I would have said that because she would get mad, but that's what I was. I was like, we're very two strong people with different interests, and you either, yeah, like that's the thing, right? You decide to try and figure out something together, or you just go your separate ways.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of things that I really respected about her, and I could see the way that she complimented my weaknesses and that I could grow a lot, like from having a relationship with her. So yeah, it was like and obviously there was like pressure from her, which is not uncommon in at least that context, to lock it down. But
Was she religious as well?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So, and I mean, yeah, like we had already, it's so funny because you look at start to finish and it was like just over 2 years from when we started dating to when we were married. But we were slow in comparison to some of my friends.
Yeah.
So that's the context that we're in, you know? And, but this is something that I want to talk about as well, that is really important to me about just the whole relationship in general. You know, you asked me for moments that, or it's like, were there moments where it's like, maybe I can still do this? And this is the thing, like, there was so many beautiful moments in my relationship. I wouldn't be who I am today without having been with her. And this is the other thing that's super important, is like, if you're a grown adult, there are very few circumstances that you're in that you're not getting something out of. That's why you're still in them.
Yeah.
You know, we have this illusion that it's like, oh, and then I was trapped in this thing. No, you wanted the security, you wanted the stability, you wanted certainty, you had you didn't want loneliness, you didn't want, I was like, no, like you were actually getting a lot. So just take some ownership over what you were actually receiving from this, rather than just trying to pass the blame for all the things that we're missing.
You're cramming a lot of repair into a short space of time. I'm impressed, like, to go through that and then look back and like already have the gratitude of, man, she gave me a lot. Like,
oh, I felt that from the very beginning, because if you're really honest with yourself about you're equally messed up, that means you're also causing the other person pain. And it's a privilege that they're also choosing to be with you.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
And there are things that there's hurt that the ways that I hurt my ex, that she might have never been hurt if she hadn't have been with me. So I don't get to say, how dare you do that to me, and be like, but it's fine that I also caused you pain. You just don't, like, get over yourself. Like, and so it's just super arrogant to pretend that like you were actually that perfect and that you're just such a joy of, like, a ball of light to be around, that people are blessed with your presence and their life is just instantly 1 million times better, and they never feel any negative things because of you being in the room with them. Like, that is just, that's really scary, but that's how a lot of people function. And that inhibits your ability to be honest about your own shit, which this is what this is all about. It is recognizing unhealth in your circumstances, but it's about you taking action and responsibility and action to do something about it, which within your power. And I'm saying most people don't.
I would agree.
And instead they blame, they scapegoat, they rage, they do all these other things except the thing that actually helps, which is take ownership, take action, and do the actual hard things. Like, not like the pseudo, not like 75 hard, like, bro, you don't need to work out twice a day, like, calm the fuck down. You're just not having some conversations. So stop using that as an escape. Just have the hard conversation.
and you nailed it. It's like the hard thing for you at the time was, well, I'll just do more of the chores. I'll just take over the cleaning. I'll just take over the cooking. I was like, I carry the stuff rather than doing the hard things. It's really
That's
interesting.
right. It's actually easier. And this is, you know what's fascinating? You know, this is why so many relationships are terrible with work-life balance and stuff for men, because it's actually easier to pull extra hours at the office than it is to emotionally engage with your family.
But I'm doing it for
It
her.
is. But yes, and now I just use that as a guard so you can no longer attach it. No, bro, you are weak. Because you are underdeveloped. You got no calves, bruh. All triangle, no legs, bruh.
No leg day, always back
No
in
leg
blind.
days, always. And sure, it looks great in the photos that are from the waist up, but when it really counts, there's nothing there. And stop saying it. Just like, yeah. And so we digress. I'm really passionate, obviously, about all of this.
No, we
all
don't
all
digress,
this
because you are
stuff.
spot
So,
on. That is the heaviest hitting thing. It's like to realize, fuck, I've been doing it all for my family all this time. And I'm like, no, dude, look in the mirror. You've been doing this
no,
for you, dodging
yes,
hard conversations.
that's
Dodging
exactly
hard
right.
stuff. I just do some more work at home and come home, like sneak into bed and then sneak out early. I don't have to have the conversation about the thing. I don't have to worry about the kid. It's amazing how automatically we will dish out.
We know that,
Absolutely.
but then we're just like, what do you mean? Someone comes to approach us, even her or kids, whatever, our mate, something, to have this conversation. What do you mean? I'm doing this superior thing. Well, you're using that to be called the superior thing, but I reckon if we poll the poll the audience here, the superior thing would actually be having this conversation, because I think that's like what you hear 99.1 million% of the time, is like the woman is like, I don't care about money, I just want
Every time.
you to be here. It's just every time. It's
Every
like every time. And then guys we're just like, so I see that, but I'm just gonna do the opposite.
Yeah.
And it'll probably be fine.
Oh, yes. I love our formulas. They're so good. They're great for life.
Well, there's a level, like, I have a lot of empathy, because I mean, there's not too many generations ago that we were Vikings. So there has been a rapid expectation for men to develop certain skill sets that may or may not have been present for a long time.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh,
But I'm sorry, bro. Like, we're not Vikings anymore. So invent a time machine and go back to being a Viking. If you want to be a Viking and pillage and do those things and just bail, cool. But that's not where we're at. So, like, either do the new version of manning up, which is owning all this shit, or like stop pretending to be a man.
yeah, stop claiming that you're the man. It's really interesting you say that, because our perception of time as humans is so fucking limited. But I'm like, you only have to go back to the war. The war was 2 generations ago. So my granddad, it's like those men came back pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
Fucked up. And the guys who didn't go, they were fucked up as well, because they had all the guilt and shame of that. And then they taught our fathers how to be a man. I'm like,
yeah.
And they have taught us to be a man. It's 2 sets of men. That is not that long ago. It's insane. Yeah. So there is empathy there to be like, and then there's only a few scattered around. We have no elders. That's gone. Like that went ages ago. Who is the role model now? And it's like, well, for a lot of people, that's still the role model. I'm like, and then you've got to throw it onto a bunch of guys to, hey guys, you got to role model this, and we need to see all this change. And women seem to be fast. I don't know what it is, but they seem to be fast.
Well, that's only because we're playing in a sphere that is more their expertise. That's the thing. Because if we were like, everyone needs to level up and have a higher vertical leap, men would excel there. But the thing is, and again, you can find different communities. You can be mad about it. That's fine. This is the world we live in. So, like, in my opinion, manning up is being the best version of a man in the man that you're in. I mean, in the world that you're in.
In the world, yeah. In the world
that you're in.
The use of the man. What is the use of the man in the world like right now? It's the man who has that ability to establish relationships.
I would say exactly. A healthy EQ is essential. And if you want to blame, this is like it's already a terrible this is already like a terrible scapegoating thing anyways, to blame past generations for where you're at. But if you want to blame past generations for not being attentive enough or whatever, then guess whose responsibility is to start cultivating that shit and doing it for their own kids? Yours, bruh. So like, you can't have it both ways. Like, either they were emotionally stunted and that's a real problem. If you believe that's a problem, then it's actually your responsibility to do something about it for now and future generations. You're supposed to break the line, or it's not a big problem and you can't blame your deficiencies on that.
but bench press?
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah.
Oh, it's I'm so glad you brought that up, because it's such a it's powerful for peace, but it's a very, very reflective piece. And also that idea of like the two people coming together and you're just going to continue living your individual life. I talk about it in our sphere of coaching quite a bit. I was like, your biggest coach is always going to be, if you're with a female partner, she's going to be your mirror every single day. She's going to be one that makes you the most angry. She's going to be the one that hits your biggest pain points and your biggest wounds. She's going to hit all those things. And if you don't have a level of awareness and skill set to develop that, you will always default to crushing things through conflict rather than growing.
Yeah.
And it's a hard game. It's a proper hard game. It is by far more challenging than getting into the sporting arena. It's the actual arena of where we're weakest, because it's the hardest game for us. It really is.
Yeah, no, like that's confronting. And how do you maintain a healthy sense of self when you're being confronted with the reality that you're not nearly as awesome as you thought you are? Like, that's what's happening, is you're getting a lot of reminders over and over and over again that you're like, fuck, I am not as good of a person as I thought I did. Like, and I've said this to people before. I was like, I was like a way better person when I was single, because my shit didn't impact anyone else. So I was just like ignorant, you know. It's like, I'm amazing. Like, look how easy, look how perfect everything is. And then all of a sudden you get in proximity with another person and it's a mirror. It's like, it starts getting all over them and you're like, oh no.
It's so amazing. I'm so much better by myself. Oh yeah, I bet yeah, because you don't have to look at any of your shit. You're awesome. That's
perfect. Exactly right. Yeah, exactly. Right? Obviously. Yeah.
So you guys got married 2.5 years in.
Yeah.
Where did you go together? Like, what were the kind of, I kind of had a basic rule in my head, which was weird. I had to travel with the person, buy something big, and I can't remember what the third one was. Like, go through some challenge, and that was kind of my tick boxes for like, oh yes, I've found it. What were the kind of big adventures or challenges that you guys set out on next? Like, obviously you finished uni, went to work.
Yeah, look, I mean, because of the religious Christian background, it was pretty like, are we just going to commit to each other or whatever? Because we were actually not sexually active. So that, I don't know. Like, we did a few things. Hey,
how much does that play on the idea of getting married?
Okay, I have very strong feelings about this.
Yeah.
Only because my ex was an assault victim, it made our first year of marriage, like, I just said, like, we could not successfully have intercourse my whole first year of marriage.
Wow. Yeah, that's
so
tough.
It didn't actually work until our 1 year anniversary. Yeah. And so, like, it's just, sex is, and this is actually, this is going to be interesting, because this is ironically like what was some of the catalyst for some of the breakdown later on. But like, for me, sex is an important part of life, but it's not the only part of life.
Yeah.
And let's
When I was
say,
21, it was pretty important. I'll
yeah,
admit
but
that.
let's say you're above average. So you have sex twice a week. Oh my goodness. Twice a week? What's it lasting? Like 28 minutes, maybe? Okay. You got like an hour out of a whole 7 days period. And people are like, and this is like 90% of what you should judge off of something off of. I'm like, do you know what love is? Do you know what intimacy is? Like, and so it was very interesting. I was out for drinks with a couple of friends recently, and both of them were women, and they were quite opinionated about this. And they were like, "Oh no, I could never commit to someone that I hadn't like slept with because I need to know what the vibe is like." And I was like, "Well, I mean, fair enough. I was married to someone for 7.5 years, and that was like, sure, there were areas where I don't think I needed to sleep with the person before. I think you can gather enough information by the overall vibe. Like,
Yep.
I think, I don't, yeah. And so whenever someone is like, oh, and then we just weren't a fit in the bed, like the sparks were amazing and then we're fit in the bed. I'm just like, I don't think that was actually that. I think there was like the mystery is gone now, which is like, welcome to real life,
Yeah.
brother.
Dust
Like,
off all the glitter.
yeah, exactly. I was like, so, and like, I think that, yeah, there's a beauty in the intimacy and the connection that comes from sex that's way more than just the like hormonal like the chemical things. Which, I mean, don't get me wrong, like I'm a fan of that. I'm not anti that, but it's a terrible, it feels like a terrible metric to use as like with the distribution that it tends to get. People are like, it's like 30% sex. It's like, wow, that is very high, since that's actually like what, 1/70th of your week.
Yeah.
If you're above average.
Yeah.
Above average.
Yeah. When you put it statistically, it's quite funny. So okay, so you finish uni. Did you go off? Did you move in together somewhere? What happened then?
Oh yeah, well, we got married shortly after we graduated. And then, well, no, it's like a year later, I reckon. And then, yeah, moved in. We were in our uni town. It was just a pretty like unaspiring place, frankly. Like, it's cool for if you want what's there. If you want something more than that, you kind of got to get out, or you'll get sucked into the routine kind of vibe, just that kind of that scenario. And so that's when we started considering traveling. It was super exciting. You know, I started working online. My ex also was doing some like tutoring. That's another, there was issues for her, not with her, like not putting in necessarily the same amount of effort to generate our income online, even though we were very equal at this point, and also but again, I didn't push. I brought things up, but I did not have some like hard conversations around contribution, like contributing, and what is a healthy, like what's healthy expectation is, and I should have, I should have had a lot of conversations, really, and tried to work it out and been willing to risk some of the things. Whereas obviously now I will look for some of these characteristics in my future partner because I know. But this is the thing. If you're in something, you either leave it or you do the work to hopefully figure out a way forward. Like, that's it. Those are your two options. So like, you don't get to like complain that this person isn't your most ideal thing if you're not willing to have the hard conversations to be patient and to work with the person in growing in certain areas.
I think that's one of the hardships people who have been kind of single into later years, like into your late 30s, early 40s, you become this quite independent person. It's really nice to have that. And then we get really picky. We're like, I don't like the way you eat ice cream.
Yeah,
You know,
I agree.
and we're not willing to have that conversation, or we're not willing to change it, or we're not willing to work on it. Nah, it sounds too hard.
Yeah,
I'm more awesome by myself. So we
I
have that default.
I have no regrets for marrying early because it forced me to learn how to grow up being considerate of another person. Even this season of singleness is like well, it's not awesome, it's whatever, but like it's a little scary to me. I'm like, oh no, what kind of, because I've been with a housemate a couple of weeks now, and like we're in the kitchen at the same time, we're going, he's like showering at the same time. I'm like, what is going on here? Like, I'm out of practice. But yeah, there's like a lot of undoing that has, the longer that you're an individual, the more patterns and behaviors that theoretically you have to undo now out of consideration for another person.
I can see how sharing at the same time with a male flatmate is awkward for a straight guy.
Yeah.
I can see how that would be awkward. It's challenging.
Yeah.
That's really, you're really going after the growth there. That's good.
Yeah.
So walk me through then. What happened after you got the job, the contribution factor?
Yeah, highs and lows. The thing is like, so she had some kind of big career dreams. So she worked in mental health and got a job here in Australia with sponsorship. Was really awesome, and it was kind of like cutting edge what the support they were doing for people with addictions and stuff like that. Super awesome. And then until it wasn't, which was like 3 or 4 months in, and then lots of issues that came up. And so then there was like frustration and pressure to then try and find something else. So then got the other dream job, the even more dream job came up. She got it. She's, from what I could tell, like really good at what she does. And then same scenario, like 3 to 4 months later, it's not the dream job anymore, which is just a pattern of like an inability to be happy. I'd say that happy, but like satisfied, it's just, and so that we did travel a lot leading up into COVID, and then COVID obviously shut that down. And I would say we were good for a while, but eventually I'd say by like, because WA, the borders were just locked down. So we just couldn't really go anywhere we had freedom in comparison to other places, but it was eventually that wore on us because that was like a shared thing that we had. But I would say it also became evident that that was probably an escape that we used to like distract ourselves from some of the other stuff that we weren't willing to have conversations about. And during COVID, there was a pretty big scenario with with some friends that we were close to, where the wife showed up at our house at like 9:30 at night and being like, there was, we got into like a bit of a physical scenario, and my husband was like there was some hands on in not a good way, and stuff, and it was definitely exacerbated. but anyways, and I was like, oh wow. And as I looked at that relationship and some of the dynamic, I realized that there were a lot of similarities in how I was being treated in my own marriage, honestly, that they weren't practically the same thing, but it's like, oh, we're going on walks and I'm being berated for like 15 minutes for not being good enough, even though, or what I'm doing with my work isn't good enough, even though it's still the primary income, even though all the, there was just like these kind of, and it wasn't until I saw a relationship where there was a similar level of like that control or abuse kind of mirrored that I started realizing, oh wait, I'm experiencing versions of this exact same thing like in my own relationship. And I didn't, I didn't know. And that's part of where I'll still come back, as much as I'm about radical responsibility. Yeah, like you can be systematically trained and diminished and demeaned, like to accept things
Yeah.
that are not healthy and that are damaging, and that's like very wrong, and that's terrible that happens to people, you know. And so it's a really weird tension to be like, you can be both really treated poorly or wrongly, and there's people that need to like actually just sit in that. Probably there are men right now that need to just be like, oh, I've actually, and it's not
That's
about whose fault it is right now, it just is, this was not right that
this
I've
is what I want to
been through
kind of,
this.
and it's hard because when it's early days, the triggers aren't as explosive or are harder to become aware of. But what would you, to kind of help guys see it, what would you look for early on that kind of led you to be in that trained state till you became really aware of, holy shit, I think I'm pretty deep in this hole?
um well, I would just say that there was a high level of just dismissal of me as a person, frankly. And there was what seemed to be unaligned expectations for behaviors.
So she was able to do one thing, you weren't allowed to do that thing.
Yeah, or like that, and things that are, I like, things were weaponized against me. For instance, we always spent Saturday morning together, which was like a beautiful thing. But occasionally my mates would like go golfing or whatever. And I already saw like my ex, I worked for myself. We already spent most breakfasts together at home. I would make her breakfast. We had dinner together 3 to 4 nights a week, whatever, minimum, like just us. We went on big walks. It's like we spent hours and hours and hours together. And then I was shamed for like the one time on a week that my mates were getting together. It was supposedly our time, even though like all of our time was our time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was the bad guy for like for even considering that. And it's not, it's hard because I want to be really careful when I say things like that, because I think there are a lot of men that are just absent and selfish. And like, I'm not advocating for that. I'm saying if you were to look at my week statistically and the amount of intentional engagement that I had with her in the family and, as a unit, it was substantially, it was at a very high level, and it was actually unfair for her to accuse me of any of these things because my actions had proven otherwise.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of cases, men are like, that's unfair. It's like, well, no, look at your track record, mate. Like, you're just not around. So like, that's accurate and that's confronting, and you got to deal with it. But I didn't know how to make that distinction. And that's the issue, like I didn't know that I was being like essentially gaslit in that way.
Yeah.
I was afraid that maybe I was just being inattentive, which it felt weird. The tension was strange because it's like, I don't know how much more. And that's what eventually led to the breakdown. It was just like this insatiableness for like higher, like more and more and more, which I'll go ahead and like get to it. But like, it kind of, it didn't culminate, but the first time is like my ex being like, oh, I want to have a threesome, like just out of nowhere. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You want to have a threesome? Like, we had already been married for like 6 years, I'm so confused. What's going on? And also, I'm like, I know that this is really bad, but it's like, I know that we have an above average sex life.
Statistically.
Statistically, I was like, I know what the average is for women. I know what your average is. I was like, I'm really confused. I work very hard. That's why I'm like, I was like, what do you, it's like, this is a big thing. I like, what do you mean? You want to take this to the next level, but we can't. So let's just introduce new novel concepts to try and like get us over because we've already peaked here.
Yeah.
You know, kind of thing. And yeah, so it was like, whoa. And then that was, unfortunately, I'd say that was kind of like the beginning of the end, really, is because I was also, I started going to therapy for some other things because she basically was accusing me. And like, look, this is like fair enough, it's hard, but like, I was struggling with certain levels of attraction because I felt like she just stopped putting in effort and stopped caring. And then I was the bad guy for being visually driven as a man and not emotionally heart driven
Why so cool.
and not caring about, you know, all these amazing other things, which I never said I didn't. I did value them a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I started going to therapy, and that journey like really, it just started helping me take ownership of a lot of myself. And it was like very interesting because it was a return really to a more authentic version of myself, which is fascinating because I'm like, wow, the contrast was interesting because I would say that my ex was like evolving into this person that was just nothing like what she was before. And I would say in therapy, I started becoming more like who I was before her, but we're retaining
The
a
wisdom.
lot of the like the beauty and that it came from that. Like I said, she taught me a lot. I matured a ton. I am way more emotionally communicative and like understanding because of her. So it's not, yeah. But that was like fascinating thing, and then it just she fell in with honestly, like she just started making friends in a circle that was extremely progressive, where no one was in any sort of traditional relationship. You know, most of the people would identify as queer or something, and a lot of them were quite a bit younger. Frankly, they were in their early 20s, really, and we're like 30 now. And this narrative of like throwing off any responsibility or expectation or rules are bad or like you should be free to explore whatever you want, to do whatever you want, that is the highest calling in life, is fullest expression of any of your desires, really, is what they proclaim. Which, I mean, hey, that's a great message, I like it too, but somebody's got to pay for it.
Yes. Just of any desire. Beautiful.
Well, really. Yeah, well, that's
no
the
maturity
thing.
no skill or maturity or wisdom comes from harnessing desires.
Well,
Just let them loose.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, that's another narrative, which is like, is there beauty in hard things and suffering? So we won't tackle that today, but that's what happens when you get rid of there being beauty from hard. Then you should avoid hard at all costs, actually, which is fair enough. Yeah, you should. If you think it's only bad, then you should avoid it at all costs.
That's a good, valid point. Yeah, absolutely.
And
there is no beauty in it. Get rid of it.
Get rid of it. Yeah. That wasn't my original idea. I heard that in a podcast, but like, it's accurate. And, you know, I would say that there was enough. I don't know what happened in those spaces. I think there was a lot of deception on her part for where she wasn't honest with me about some of this stuff. And so it led to, I don't know, it just, the whispers, you know, the people being like, no, that's not right, you know, and then it led to her kissing a girl when I was on a work trip, you know, and then people being like, no, you're entitled. You know, she's like, I think I'm bi. And that meant that she was entitled to be able to explore that aspect of herself because she had missed out in her early 20s, you know, committing to someone and following strict rules and all this type of stuff. And she was owed that. And I basically was, I mean, tried to work with her, but I was like, no, this is a pretty hard, I was like, this is a pretty hard boundary for me. Monogamy, you know, I've been doing it for a minute, and I'm still here. It's still a thing. I'm still believe in it. And
From Tuesdays to the Sunday, like Monday.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was just so. And then there was the downward spiral, really, of basically in like multiple events over the subsequent like 9 months or whatever of big issues that appeared to be unrelated, but were all related to her wanting autonomy. Frankly, like she just wanted no responsibility and wanted to do whatever she wanted to do. And there was another instance where there was she kissed someone else that I had already expressed concern about, and she had told me that there was no issue, you know. Then one night, like, she just didn't come home, which had never happened, and I didn't get a message until like 4 a.m. telling me where she was at or whatever and stuff. And it was just like a very rapid descent into this new lifestyle that had been presented to me as like, I just need a little bit of space. And I was like, okay, that's hard for me, but as long as you don't cross these lines, like, I understand. I don't want to be that controlling. I was like, I'm not going to have an open marriage. Don't sleep with anyone. I don't even want you kissing anyone. I was like, you're married. So, but if you want to spend time with these people and go out and do stuff, like, I understand, like, that's cool. And yeah, it just very quickly became that was the new path, actually, and that I was the old path being left behind. And I eventually just had to be, I had a pretty big breaking point. Well, not really, but I was in therapy one day, and my therapist just told me straight up, I'd been seeing him for about 1.5 years. He goes, I'm worried about you because this is causing you like a lot of distress. And I think you want to save your marriage more than your wife does. And in that moment, I was like, yep, this is it. I'm done. Like, I can't, I had initially decided I will go as far as I possibly can, even if it's super painful, until I reach the point to where I think I'm going to do irreparable damage to myself, to where I might not recover for a long time from this, and I might jeopardize future like friendships and relationships because of how damaged I am from this. I was like, I will stop before I get to that point.
Sure,
And so
that's impressive.
When my therapist said that to me, I was like, it's right now. Like, this is it. This is the moment. Because I knew, I was like, I can't do another one of these spirals that we have where we like kind of pretend everything's okay, and then something arbitrary blows up, and then it's the end of the world again, you know? And it was, so the next morning, literally, I was like, I think we should separate. And she's like, no, let's try and save it. It's like, okay, we'll give it a go. Booked in therapy. And then she essentially vanished for like 5 days. I mean, was in a small level of communication, like kept me updated or whatever. But it was like, and so by the time she came back home, the texts were like, I'm going to stay over at so-and-so's if that's okay. It's like, oh, I'm not going to tell you no, like, obviously not in a good position. So I just gave her a bit of an ultimatum. I was like, do you actually want to save this relationship or not? Because I will not go to therapy and deal with all of this really hard things in the best part of the year, because it was like Chrissy and summer here, you know, it's like, it's the best time of year. I was like, I will not do all of this shit just to have someone else be like, it's unfavorable, so we could absolve ourselves of responsibility. It's like, do you want to save this or not? And I think I asked her, I think I was like, do you want out or not? I was like, do you want to say this or do you want out? I think that's what I said to her. And she's like, took a day and then it's like, no, I want out. And I said, I know, thank you. That's actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so how did you find the recovery process from there?
Oh, Look, there was a level of immediate relief actually, because my life was really hard, frankly.
Yeah.
And it was nice to get back some of that, like, things, you know?
Some Brennan.
And to have some hope, you know? Yeah, like kids had been taken off the table, like all these things, it just had escalated to crazy levels. And so there was a sense of like instant relief. There was a lot of residual pain and grief though, because you can cognitively understand something, but that doesn't shift your heart or your nervous system. Like that's on its own timeline, frankly.
Yeah.
And so you just got to kind of buckle up for the ride and kind of have grace for yourself and try and manage within reason based off of whatever capacity you have. But yeah, like I instantly tanked my capacity for just functioning as a human, like having to go through that. And then there was so many added pressures with like money and with visas, stuff as well. It just was, yeah, it was challenging. But I think this, you know, what was hardest? Like two things was the loss of identity. So from being a husband and having something like, frankly, like purpose, I would say, and having the opportunity to build something with someone, which is what I like really wanted and loved. I am like a relationship person. I will happily pick the challenges that come with a relationship over the challenges that come from singleness. Like I'm like, that's never been a question in my mind. So I was signing up to be worse off in the things that I cared about most. And that was actually a big realization I only had literally just a couple months ago that was pretty massive for me. Because I have, you know, I'm traveling a lot. I'm getting to do all sorts of cool things. I'm free in a sense. That's really good. So that's awesome. But there were aspects of things that I value more that I had in that I don't have right now. So that's confronting. That you just gotta be. It's like a very big, like, okay, do I actually believe what I say I believe to my own detriment?
Yeah.
And am I willing to actually do the hard thing that hurts me because I actually believe that it's right,
Yeah.
or that it's the better way?
Values
And
are easy until you have to step into them.
well, that's the thing, right? You know, and I think the easiest comparison is kind of like when you're trying to get in shape. After, if you've been out of shape, you know, you like start working out a lot, you adjust your diet, and it's like your life actually gets worse for a while, and you are not sexier. Your life just sucks. You're like, damn it, I'm fat and I can't have cookies, and I'm at the gym all the time. Like, I hate the gym. This is exhausting.
That's so good. Yeah.
And you just got to sit there.
Yeah.
You just got to sit there in that. And it's just like, am I crazy? Am I, because everything practically that we use to reinforce our decision is actually telling us the opposite in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. The total opposite is fucking mental.
It is. It's telling us the opposite. So there's like a resoluteness in the decision that you have to have that's absent of anything else outside of just like yourself. Yeah, exactly. And then the second thing is like, man, I'm having to navigate shit that I just did not plan on doing. Like, holy crap. I'm like, all of my friends are married people with children. Dating is actually a lot harder than I anticipated. Frankly, because I don't know how to meet women. Because all of my friends, it's like, what are you doing on Friday? I'm going over to my friend's house and hanging out with them and their kids. Like, that's what I do. That's my life. I love it.
Yeah.
That's not super conducive, though, for meeting single women, though. And so I'm like, I don't even know how to do that. I met my girlfriend at 21. Well, we got together at 21. I met her at 20. I was like, I didn't date in any of my 20s. You know, I was married. So I was like, I don't even know how to do this. Also, I'm carrying a bunch of things that I definitely didn't sign up for. I'm like, frankly, I technically did the right thing. And someone else blew my life up. And now I can't even live in my own home. Type of thing. So just like, whoa, that's crazy. Okay, what am I going to do? That tension. But then I'm still responsible for how I show up and for doing something regardless of where I find myself. Because no one's coming to save me there. No one's coming to fix it. Also, guess what? I'm not actually that special. Like, people have been hurt and had their lives ruined by lots of people for all of human history. So, like,
yeah, welcome to the party.
Yeah, a little bit. It's like
not even that special a club. You're like, fuck.
Oh no, it's not. It's like, damn it.
Not even an elite club here. This is ridiculous.
I'm not even.
All this pain, and I'm not even in a sweet, unique individual club where no.
Yeah, and that's also like, that's really the challenge though, is that you have to learn how to base your okayness outside of any of those external things, because if you don't, you being okay then is conditional on those things being satisfied.
Yeah,
which is why like my faith personally means so much to me, because it's extremely grounding. However, but just in general, like, people always are like, but your future. And I was like, I don't care. I was like, I believe you, but like, today sucks. And I can't like, I can't cuddle the future. I just want to hug. And you can't cuddle the future right now. Also, if I make my okayness contingent on one day things being better, that means that I'm actually not enough right now. And guess what happens when we typically get what we say we want in life? It's not what we thought it was. So
now, funnily enough, out of all the elite clubs that you'd want to be a part of, that one is probably the most elite, being okay with yourself right now. That has a cool badge. That's a cool club. That's elite. That's unique. Because it's tough, man. It's hard. It's hard filling up your own cup and being okay with yourself. It's an invisible
badge, though, so only you know that you get to
that's the pain in the ass.
Which sucks.
I don't know. People, I think, when they're all okay with themselves, they're really nice people. I agree.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
And that's the coolest thing. Like, your community will rise to the standards that you set for it, frankly.
Yeah. 100%.
And so I'm privileged. Like, you and we have a great relationship, and that's because of our general expectation for the types of people that we want to have in our circle. Yeah. And that has allowed us to be able to share some like really fun times together and interactions and stuff. And yeah, but that's actually in the digression. So I know we've been going at this for a while. So is there anywhere that you want this to go before you wrap it up, or do you want to wrap it up? Or
I kind of want to bow.
Okay.
But you've kind of already, the kind of thing that I want to bring it back up for guys is, what are the warning signs? The dismissal of me as a person and the unaligned expectations of behavior. I think those are two things that you can actually see quite early on.
Yeah.
And the action from that is, you don't have to break up your relationship. You don't have to shatter it, but it's like, step up, do the hard thing. This is not how I want to be treated. These are my expectations of this relationship.
Yeah.
And I think from your experience, that does half the bow. Is there anything you would tie into that would really make it complete for the guys?
Well, I think what is important is for you to have a level of like recognize that you are, while you are an individual, you are also trying to be a part of something that is not just you. So there is always a give and take, but you've got to be really open and upfront and honest about where you're at, so conversations can be had. And then you're gonna have to, it's really about the ability to come to terms with your circumstances, and if it's right or not, or if it's worth it or not, what things you're doing. And I don't think what led to the acceleration really of the breakdown of my marriage was the fact that I started having more boundaries. I changed the rules though.
Yeah.
I changed the rules about what was acceptable.
Well, just change the rules
And
about having expectations and having boundaries.
that's
'cause there were
exactly
none.
right. I changed the rules there, which, so yeah, obviously that was not like received very well. Fair enough. In a healthy scenario, though, there should have been there should have been a desire to come together to figure out a way forward. And I think that for men, you will do yourself a lot of good, both from a humility perspective, but also from like just a healthy relationship perspective, if you will just actually have these conversations, because you'll get a pretty clear indicator, I think, about ways that you're being unrealistic, and if the other person is actually just doesn't prioritize and doesn't actually care about you and your well-being, just wants what they can get from you.
Yeah. Brendan, thank you so much for sharing your story, mate, and sharing
Yeah,
the
of
journey,
course.
because
Yeah.
that is, it's hard just experiencing the journey. It's hard sharing it, but it's also the level of awareness that you have has been able to really create a space where men can actually improve. And it's hard. They have to face the mirror for the guys who want to choose it. It ain't going to be easy now that they know it. And for some of the guys, it might be the first time they're realizing it. They're like, fucking hell, I'm not as awesome as I thought I was. Holy shit. This is scary. This is kind of shattering my world. But I really appreciate you stepping into that space for us and sharing that, because it's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thanks for listening. I'm honored for the opportunity to share. So
thanks, brother. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, mate.